Can CJ Stroud win MVP? And the conversation isn't nearly as crazy as you think. Minus one part. Only one rookie has ever won MVP in the history of the NFL, and that is Jim Brown, who won Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same year in 1957. Jim Brown is arguably the greatest player to ever play in the NFL, and that happened almost 70 years ago. So this will be historic upon historic circumstances, but if you break it down and you just compare the numbers with everybody, it's not as crazy. I got this pretty little graphic up here where we're comparing CJ Stroud versus who I think are the other three MVP candidates: Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. If you're listening, don't worry, I'll read the stats to you. Try to keep along. I got their records, completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and rushing touchdowns. CJ Stroud is currently 4-4, 62% completion percentage, 22-70 yards, 2,270 yards, 14 passing touchdowns, an interception, and 1 rushing touchdown. Lamar Jackson is 7-2, 71.5 completion percentage, 1,954 yards, 9 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 440 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes, 7-2, 68.6 completion percentage, 2,442 passing yards, 17 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, no rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 8-1, 68.9% completion percentage, 2,347 passing yards, 15 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 7 rushing touchdowns, shout out to the brotherly shove, and 316 passing yards. So in terms of efficiency and taking care of the football, CJ Stroud is up there with all of them. Right now, he's on pace for 28 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That would be slightly better than Tom Brady's, I believe it was 2009 MVP season. I'm sorry, Tom Brady had so many excellent seasons. I can't keep up with them all. You know, it's just greatness. Someone who doesn't know I'm a Patriots fan is going to hear that out of context and just think I'm an asshole. But maybe I am an asshole. Who knows? So right now, that's what he's on pace for. But if you look at the other competition, here's what's going to be the minimum that he's going to have to accomplish. Number one, he's going to have to beat Joe Burrow this week. They're playing the Bengals. I think it's a playoff preview. He has to beat Joe Burrow this week. That's when we can start jumping really deep into the, oh shit, okay, this MVP thing can actually happen. This is where that second question comes into play about the Texans' ceiling. I think their ceiling 11 wins. They're currently at 4-4, so the most they can get is 13. Let's take a look at the rest of their schedule, shall we? Again, graphic on the screen. If you're just listening, I got you. Bengals next week, Arizona Cardinals after, Jacksonville Jaguars rematch, Denver Broncos, New York Jets, Tennessee Titans, Browns, Titans again, Indianapolis Colts. I count at most 3 losses there, at most. So I think the floor for them is 9 wins, because who's to say they don't drop another one? This team just lost to the fucking Panthers last week, I'm still trying to figure that one out, how they lost to the Panthers. I don't think they know how they lost to the Panthers, but they lost. But if this MVP CJ Stroud case is going to happen, they would have to sweep the Jaguars, because they would have to win that division, which would probably mean get 12 wins, because if you're a wild card quarterback and you're going against Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts, all 3 of which could very, 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 very realistically be the 1 seed in their respective conference, yeah, that's a no-go. I don't care how good your stats are. You're not going to get that MVP. But if you pull this off, if you somehow manage to get the 12 wins, which will mean they would have to go 8-1 for the rest of their season, which again, I'm looking at this schedule, very doable. Very doable, especially if they beat the Bengals this week. Man, oh man, if they beat the Bengals this week, oh boy. If they beat the Bengals this week, 13 wins becomes realistic, because the more I look at the schedule, the more I'm like, okay, they've already beaten the Jaguars once. And I know the Jaguars are 6-2 or 5-2 or whatever the hell they are, but I just, they don't move the needle for me. And I know Trevor Lawrence is everyone's golden boy. I know he is, but maybe it's the uniforms. Maybe I'm just being biased because my entire life outside of the Jalen Ramsey, Leonard Fournette year, the Jaguars have been terrible, but they just don't move the needle for me. But to directly answer your questions, I think the Texans ceiling is 12 wins. I think CJ Stroud is the 5th best quarterback as it currently stands, simply based on this season. Obviously, this isn't a lifetime achievement award at quarterback. I don't think that's particularly fair to a quarterback who's been playing NFL football for 10 weeks. I don't know how we would fairly have him in that category, to be honest. So by now you might think, All right, what does that top 10 quarterback actually look like? Don't you worry, your sweet, pretty little head. I am going to show you in 1 second. So, again, I said I have CJ Stroud at 5. The 4 quarterbacks that I have ahead of him in order: Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow. I think that's fair. I can't argue that he's playing better than any of those 4. The best argument I can make would be for Joe Burrow because he just started playing like Joe Burrow again like 2 weeks ago, really. But we know he's Joe Burrow again now. So that's a tough sell. It's a very tough sell to be like, all right, here goes this rookie with 10 games of evidence. He is now better than a quarterback that's been to the Super Bowl and is now playing like a quarterback who's been to the Super Bowl before. No go. Here are the 5 quarterbacks I have under him: Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, and then Justin Herbert barely makes the list at 10. Tua was originally in that top 5. I think I had him at 4 before. But again, the not beating teams that aren't in we should probably tank territory, it's rough for me. It's rough. It's rough. Josh Allen is way too in love with turning the football over for my comfort. And Buffalo Bills fans, of course, they're going to defend their guy. They're one of the most passionate fan bases in the league, and I love them for it. But if they're honest with themselves, they're annoyed at that shit too. They're like, all right, Josh, we're kind of sick of you throwing the balls to the other team when you're supposed to be one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in football. We don't need you to get it together. Jared Goff was playing at an MVP level. He was in MVP conversations no more than 3 weeks ago. That Baltimore game completely changed how we look at Jared Goff. That's just a rap ski. Trevor Lawrence, again, he's there because of the record, and he is actually playing pretty well. We expected him to take a major leap this year. The leap isn't as big as we thought it would be, but it's a leap. It's a leap. The leap is there. Justin Herbert is finally getting that Chargers team back into shape so we could be a little more proud of where he is now. But we'll revisit this CJ Stroud for MVP conversation after this Bengals game because, oh boy, if he wins. Oh, baby, if he wins. All right.